Top 10 Best Omega Watches. 1. Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch Master Chronometer. It goes without saying that if there's only room for one Omega in your collection, it should be the Moonwatch. The new Moonwatch Master Chronometer version gives you even fewer reasons not to own one. It features a new case that harkens back to the 4th generation of the Speedmaster from the 1960s. That was the one that Buzz Aldrin used on the moon. More importantly, Omega finally changed the bracelet to this new tapering design. It features small center links, a beautifully finished clasp, and it is amazingly comfortable. If you had just purchased the previous Moonwatch before January 2021, just order this bracelet separately. It will change your life as a Speedmaster owner. The price for this stainless steel Moonwatch with a bracelet is £6,200. 2. Seamaster Diver 300M. The long-awaited update for the Seamaster Diver 300M came in 2018. I will be honest here, it took me a while to get used to the stainless steel bracelet. I have some of the old Seamaster Diver 300M models with the 9-row bracelet. At some point, I remember feeling that they were a bit outdated. Somehow, though, I started to like the old stainless steel bracelet again, and now the new bracelet feels a bit too cleaned up. What can I say? I grew up in the 1980s and 90s. Other updates were the size, from 41mm to 42mm, a ceramic dial and bezel, and of course, an in-house developed movement. The 300M was, and still is, Omega's bread and butter watch. But it was also one of the watches that, in its previous iteration, still depended on an ETA-based movement modified with a coaxial escapement. Prices for the Diver 300M start at £4,800. 3. Constellation Globemaster. Omega introduced the Globemaster in 2015. Or, more accurately, the brand reintroduced it, as the Globemaster name dates all the way back to the early 1950s. At the time, Omega had an issue exporting its Constellation watch to the USA. This had to do with the name of the watch, so Omega called it Globemaster until the naming issue was resolved. Anyway, the Constellation Globemaster was the first watch to have the Master Chronometer certification by Metas. I was there when this Constellation Globemaster made its 2015 Baselworld debut. That's where I developed my crush for this watch, specifically the Sedna Gold model. The Pi Pan dial is a nod to those early constellations from the 1950s and 60s, and the fluted bezel was used on the later C model constellations from the late 1960s. But the real wake-up call came when Omega sent me this Sedna Gold watch for a review. 4. Seamaster Plo Professor 1200M. The Plo Professor is rapidly gaining a following, despite its awkward shape and dimensions. I own the steel version, which was in production from 2009 till 2019, and it has become one of my favorite watches that I always keep close by. It took me a while to sort out whether I wanted an original Plo Professor 600, introduced in 1971, or one of the modern versions. I ended up with the latter because I wanted to be able to use it as a daily driver, take it with me on holidays, and wear it into the swimming pool. I refuse to swim in the sea or ocean. Although you might be able to find yourself a steel one at one of the boutiques or authorized dealers, the titanium models are still in Omega's catalog. The nice thing about the titanium models is that they lack a date window and have the modern master chronometer movement. The 2009 model had Omega's caliber 8500, which didn't have the Metas certification. Prices for the modern Plo Professor 1200M in titanium start at £11,300 for the version with a titanium bracelet, and £17,200 for the titanium and gold model. 5. Speedmaster Caliber 321. This is another one on the list that barely needs any introduction, but if you were unaware, please check our video on the Caliber 321 here. Ed White, it is the steel Speedmaster Moonwatch that brings back the famous and iconic Caliber 321. The movement is also to be found in the Platinum Speedmaster Professional, 42mm Moonwatch with onyx dial with meteorite sub-dials. Omega has a special workshop in Biel, where they hand-build these Speedmaster watches with Caliber 321. It's quite a different approach from their industrialized watchmaking for nearly any of their other watches. Because of this traditional approach, Omega is only able to manufacture between 1,000 and 2,000 of these Caliber 321 powered watches per year. Keep in mind that Omega produces 750,000 watches per year in total. Therefore, these special Speedmasters amount to, at maximum, just 0.27% of Omega's total production. The price of this watch is £14,000, and on top of that, you can expect the wait to be a long one. 6 Speedmaster Dark Side of the Moon Apollo 8. This is the third and last Speedmaster on this list, I promise. But it is so good, it deserves a spot. Omega introduced its Speedmaster Dark Side of the Moon watch back in 2013. It was the first Speedmaster available with a ceramic case and dial. A year later, we saw the gray side of the moon. That handsome variation made it even tougher to choose. Then, I think Omega made a little mistake. The brand released even more dark side of the moon variations, including a white side of the moon. That ruined the uniqueness of the Speedmaster Dark Side of the Moon a little bit, and it took a while to regain the respect and appreciation for this collection from enthusiasts. But Omega managed to do so back in 2018 with the clever design of the Speedmaster Dark Side of the Moon Apollo 8. It's based on the same Dark Side of the Moon collection, but with a very interesting angle, the moon itself. 7 Seamaster 300 Bronze Gold. Omega loves its heritage and knows you do too. Hence, the brand came up with the Seamaster 300 a few years ago. But in 2021, Omega decided to update the collection with new movements and toned-down dials. This meant less information on the dial, and a designer closer to the original Seamaster 300 models from the 1950s and 60s. Introduced in 1948, the Seamaster line is the oldest family in Omega's collection. Before that, watches had reference numbers, but there were no specific collections. After the introduction of the Seamaster, however, the Constellation followed in 1952, as well as the Speedmaster in 1957 and the DeVille in 1967. When the Speedmaster collection came to life in 1957, Omega also used that moment to introduce the Railmaster and the Seamaster 300. The Seamaster 300 was Omega's professional diver's watch, and it competed with the Rolex Submariner and Blancpain 50 Fathoms. But back to 2021. This Seamaster 300 is a 41mm diameter watch with all the modern technology on board, not only due to its master chronometer certified caliber 8912, but also because of its special alloy. Prices start at £6,100, but this bronze gold version is priced at £11,500. 8 Seamaster 300M NTTD. The No Time to Die movie finally came out this year, but this watch already made its debut in December 2019. It was a good thing for Omega for a few reasons. It had a longer time window for promotion, and luckily enough, Omega didn't make this watch a limited edition. Otherwise, it would already have been long sold out before the movie even premiered. Daniel Craig was involved in the design phase of this watch, making it a true James Bond watch indeed. There's a broad arrow on the dial, which is not to everyone's liking, but it does keep the dial design balanced. The brown tones of the dial and bezel perfectly match the faux patina of the markers and hands. One of the best features of this watch is the titanium mesh bracelet. It just wears super comfortably, especially if you have normal to large-sized wrists. If you have small wrists, you might want to ask for the short version of the bracelet. The price of the version with the titanium bracelet is £9,100 and on NATO, it is £8,100. 9 DeVille Tracer. For a long time, people complained, and some still do, that there isn't a proper dress watch in Omega's collection. We can end those discussions now, as Omega has introduced a bunch of new 40mm DeVille Tracer watches. Whereas the Globemaster is a little smaller at 39mm, it is a thicker watch due to its automatic caliber 8901. The thinner hand wound caliber 8935 enabled Omega to create a slightly thinner case. If 40mm still sounds too large, you can still try to source a beautiful vintage Omega Constellation or Centenary if you're in need of a dress watch. Besides the Power Reserve version here, there's also a time-only version. In fact, there are two, one with a small seconds hand in a sub-dial at 6 o'clock and one with a central seconds hand. The Omega DeVille Tracer in 40mm starts at £6,500 for the steel version. 10 Omega Museum Collection N8. I had to add a bit of a quirky one, I guess. Omega's museum collection has been there for quite a while, but it receives little attention. That's unfair, if you ask me, because just look at this Omega Museum Collection N8. It definitely deserves a spot on this list of top 10 best Omega watches. With Omega's museum collection, the brand selects a watch at least 50 years old from its museum and designs a modern recreation. There are only 1949 pieces of this red gold museum collection N8. This specific piece is already a few years old, but it's still in Omega's collection. A boutique might have one left for you. This particular model has a silver dial with a tachymeter scale and pulsation scale on there as well. One scale to measure the average speed, and the other to measure your heartbeat while racing. The retail price of this Omega Museum Collection N-8 Rescend timer is £16,300. What do you think of our video? Let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. Also remember to subscribe to our channel and enable notifications so you will be the first to know when we upload a new video. Thank you for watching.